And I started doing improv, and everybody in that group was just so supportive, and they had my back, and they just wanted me to succeed. I was like, these are my people.
Part of my joy of doing improv is because I have a 5-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Who that young energy is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So imaginative.
Yeah.
That by taking improv, I allow myself to be yes and, but also let her play and be in her world at times as well. Just because it's important to play. Is to have
love that.
So that's part
So
of my.
true. I have 2 daughters.
That's why they're saying Love Supreme. Got a nice little white shot. So guys, this is Kyle, Suicide Versatile. I'm here with the wonderful
2-touch Anthony Veneziale.
Oh, I love that. It says 2 touch to it. See, I haven't heard that. That's why I love people introduce themselves.
Yeah.
You never know what they prefer.
Yeah.
Now, backstory is I met Uncle Polo at Hollywood Theater by chance at an Ayahuasca Now movie showing at 3 p.m.
Yes.
And I was like, is there any seats taken over there? He's like, no, you can sit here. And I was like, he looks so familiar.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I know who this is.
Yeah.
He's a handsome man. It's hard to forget.
Yes.
So I was like, I go move into the seats. Hey, Uncle Polo, how you been? And he looked like he had a lapse moment. Oh, SV, he knows me by my initials.
Yes.
So it was just wonderful. We caught up. And then for some reason, he was like, hey, I have a son-in-law coming to town who's part of Freestyle Love Supreme.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. I've been doing improv for about 6 months now.
Oh, man.
So I was like, thank you. And then I was like, wow, okay. And I looked up some of the highlights.
Yeah.
I found the totems of your experience. And I was just baffled and enjoyed and enthralled. Like, wow. And Uncle Polo was like, well, how do you say Uncle Polo's name? Let's give him credit.
Sure. Renault Catalani, who is also my father-in-law. So I'm married to his daughter. I'm very lucky.
I have an inclination because when I see Uncle Polo speak and MC, he's a poet of his own.
Oh, yeah.
He's throwing out bars, and not necessarily bars, but prose so often in his MCing.
Yeah.
So I could see maybe the daughter of such, a beautiful connection would want to be with a poet of his own comedic right. That's the two I was thinking.
I like that. I like
must be the connection. So,
yeah.
Nonetheless, congratulations on such a beautiful gathering and coming together of love.
Yeah.
So Mike, I just want to just talk to shoes and kind of figure out a little bit the origin story of FLS. Would you be so kind to educate us?
Absolutely. So I started Freestyle Love Supreme in 2003. Right. And it's been a minute. So that was 21 years ago.
Generation. It's over a generation. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I started that while I was helping to produce a new musical called In the Heights.
Okay.
So In the Heights is a show that a dear friend of mine named Lin-Manuel Miranda was working on. I went to college with Lin.
Beautiful.
And I was helping to produce that show. And whenever he would have a break, I convinced him to freestyle with me. And then I convinced him after a while to be like, hey, this is a show. Let's do this out in public.
I dig it.
And so we started doing shows out in public. And we were like, what are we going to call this thing? And we invited some other friends to come with us. And then suddenly we were like an actual show. And I think when Tommy Kail, who directed Hamilton and In the Heights, and he's directed a bunch of stuff, and he was my college roommate, I convinced him to get into theater.
So going to college, you can make connections. That's one of the bonuses. Okay.
It absolutely can be, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I started to do that. And then we created this show and called it Freestyle Love Supreme to kind of honor John Coltrane. I'm a jazz musician.
Beautiful.
And that album, A Love Supreme, is one of my deeply favorite spiritual, that album's amazing.
So the cool pack that you shared here, what was a thread that allowed you to sync more? Was there a legendary teacher of your college days, professor, who encompassed this ability to synchronize so beautifully?
So for me, improv, I was an athlete, and I got kicked off of the soccer team.
Okay.
My sophomore year.
Was it 2 times? Just kidding.
I got kicked out twice. 2 times. And I got kicked off the soccer team, and 3 days later, I auditioned for the improv troupe.
Wow. Okay.
And for me, it was actually my peers, right? And the incredible thing about improv that I love so much is you have as much to learn from other people as they do from you.
Yeah.
no matter what level you are at it.
I like that.
You know, it's just a beautiful beginner's mindset always.
I love
It kind
that.
of reminds me of the martial arts in some ways too, like that.
Cool. I dig it.
You always have a beginner's mindset.
One of my classmates, a gingerly sweet old Japanese gal woman. I just love that she's in our class.
Yeah.
She's probably like mid-50s.
Yeah.
But she's still rocking with us. Like,
Yeah.
ain't no thing but a chicken wing. And Grace is her name. I love interacting with her all the time. So I love seeing, what do you call it, students of all ages,
Yeah.
right? That are hungry to keep plugging
Yeah.
in. So that's so great.
Yeah.
Now,
you never know what's
yeah.
going to happen, right? That's the incredible thing about improv.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I realized, like, why didn't I do this sooner? I took it here's part of the reason.
Yeah.
Back in the day in Portland, like probably 15 years ago,
Yeah.
not quite 20, budget-wise, it was just a challenge for people of color. Of
course.
But now they're doing this thing called BIPOC free class. So ever since, like, there's no excuses. I show up and I participate, and it's been a blessing and a helpful aid towards the bridge of just being who you creatively can be.
Yeah.
But the East Coast life, because that's where you originated from, right?
Yeah. I was in New York when I started Freestyle Love Supreme.
So 3 days after not making it to the soccer team,
Yeah.
you decided to do. So what was the epiphany moment? Like,
Yeah,
what allowed you to, like, oh my gosh, this is my calling of sort.
Well, you know, I loved being an athlete, and I also loved theater, but they never seemed like they could coincide at the same time. So I kind of had to choose one over the other. Interesting. And I think a lot of us feel that way. And arts usually gets demoted, right? Because art is not typically seen in our society as something worth pursuing.
It's the first thing they try to cut out the budget.
That's right. It's disposable. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It's actually like it vibrates in our very DNA. And the more we get to express, and especially like the thing I was most interested in when I got to do improv was feeling as though a sense of belonging.
Yeah, I get it.
And that's huge, right? I'm the youngest of 5 boys. I come from a very big Italian family, and I never quite felt like I belonged. And even on the soccer team, sometimes I was the captain, and I tried to have a sense of camaraderie.
Right.
But when I started doing improv, and everybody in that group was just so supportive, and they had my back, and they just wanted me to succeed. I was like, these are my people. This is. I want everyone to feel this way.
Yeah. And let's say you're doing it with Lin-Manuel and others.
After I graduated. When I was at Wesleyan, Lynn wasn't in the improv troupe. Lynn was like working on musicals and stuff like that.
Right.
And I sort of got to know him through that.
Totally.
But the improv troupe, I learned so much. Oh my God. So the people who are like my teachers are Adam Peltzman, Sam Shaw, Ann Tebow, Evan Blackford, Sadia Shepard, Ashley Canese, Bob Waithman, Lev Kushner, Aaron Hilliard.
These are New Yorkers or
Isaac Eddy. They're all over the world now. They're all like spread over the world, but they're all still doing like incredible things in the world.
That's beautiful.
These are all people who I was in the troupe with and who I learned infinite from.
Oh. You said infinite?
Yeah.
Wow. That's one of my synonyms for limitless.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is one of your infinite gems, if you will, that you've taken to apply to your livelihood or just improv that is like juicy, good returns when you do it, if there is a tool?
Yeah. I guess the thing I kind of live by is find people who help you to be the best version of yourself, and then listen deeply to their support.
I like that. Listen, not just listen, but deeply to their support.
Yeah.
Who was that for you in that upcoming journey in doing improv and figuring it out?
Gosh, I'm so lucky in that there were so many.
Yeah, that's
but in the early days,
right.
I would say for me, the people that like lit my fuse, I named some of them, but Adam Peltzman, who went on to create and help do a show called Blue's Clues.
Blue's Clues, the cartoon?
Yeah.
That's a classic for the kids.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the things in that show are very improv inspired and improv based.
That's so cool to hear.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
It's kind of everywhere. Like once you start seeing it, you're like, oh, this thing's all over the place.
Yeah.
Another person that really like just inspired me was Aaron Hilliard.
Yeah.
He helped to create podcasts with Audible. So like the whole concept of podcasts and
Yeah.
using them as storytelling devices and having comedy shows through them. That's because of this guy, Aaron Hillier.
Is he based out in the East Coast too?
He was in Los Angeles for a super long time. He moved back to the East Coast, and then he was part of the Audible Amazon team for a super long time in New York.
It moves.
And now he's up in Connecticut. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, let me see. Let me ask you this: how much time and energy do you say it takes for an artist to hone the craft of improv or a particular style, if you will?
Yeah.
I hear a 10,000-hour rule of thumb. But what is your take?
Well, the thing I think I love maybe most about improv is that it could be 10 seconds and it could be 10 years. And it could be both of them at the same time.
Oh, I love that. That's
So
a
I
good
think
answer.
yes and is a really interesting philosophy, but the one I've embraced a lot recently is yes both,
Yes, both.
which is things
I dig
can
it.
be true that are supposedly dialectically opposed,
Okay.
but actually,
Yes. That makes sense because I'm taking like variety of classes.
Yeah.
The BIPOC is a mixture of everybody from like newbies to oldies,
Yeah.
goodies, whatever.
Yeah.
We've been coming together about a year and a half. It seems I just joined about 6 months, 7 months ago, 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also going to Kickstand Comedy, another school in town, which is beautiful. Now I learn from a different teacher, and I love from different teachers different spices, right?
Yeah.
Like different flavor
Yeah.
to add to the mix. And I'm taking like level 4 here, and then the BIPOC class, and then level 2 over there. And what we were just learning at level 2, if you will, is besides the yes and, it's also you don't have to also agree on the perspective, but you get to the baseline is okay. You agree on those everything, but the point of view is still it's still poignant, if you will, without having to create friction, but you still can move the story along. So I really like taking that in. And
Yeah.
when I hear you say what you're saying, I say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be a timeline to be aware of it.
do you remember when you were a kid
Mhm.
and you like would play imaginative games with somebody?
Sure.
And they'd be like, "No, you didn't." Like it could be as simple as like, "I just got you," and like, "No, you didn't."
Part
Like,
of yeah.
"But I
No,
did."
yeah, yeah. Part of my joy of doing improv is because I have a 5-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Who that young energy is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So imaginative.
Yeah.
That by taking improv, I allow myself to be yes and, but also let her play and be in her world at times as well. Just because it's important
my gosh.
to play. Is to
I
have
love
that.
that.
curiosity. So that's part
So
of my
true.
yeah.
I have 2 daughters,
How old are they?
13 and 11.
Okay, good.
But the 13-year-old turns 14 in 5 days.
Oh wow.
So they're like almost exactly 3 years apart.
Yeah.
And I have
What's the magic sauce for girl dads? 'Cause you have
girl
two.
dads, girl dads. Yeah.
Because I have one. You know.
Yeah, I mean, just throw yourself into, like you said, their world. But I think what's incredible, like the hard part about being a parent for me was staying present in the moment that I found myself. Because as a parent, you kind of have a job that's a bit of an assembly line. Get them up, get them ready, get them fed, get them out the door.
Yeah.
And then get them home, get them washed, get them clean, get them maybe read a story, and then get them to bed. Because you are a human being who also has needs and wants and desires that exist outside of them.
That's true.
But if you're looking at the end result prior to being in the moment that they are experiencing, you're rushing it. And you're missing maybe the best part. I was missing maybe the best part. I wanted them to be out of the bathtub before they got in.
Oh, I see.
If that makes sense.
Almost impatientness that becomes.
The end result.
Yeah.
I was expecting the end result, which is for them to be in bed. Because otherwise, I wouldn't get any time for myself or to connect with my partner.
What was the catapult, the bridge, the symbolism of allowing that to be? Oh, I'm realizing I'm doing that. Let me try maybe another methodology or a game or something like.
I played more games with them in the tub. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, why am I not having as much fun as they're having?
I see. That's fun. That's a good way to tackle that or address it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I made most things games. Putting on our shoes became a game. Getting out the door became a game.
Right.
And that to me is what improv is. Everything's a bit of a game. Depending on the school of improv you go to, you're always looking for the game,
yeah.
or there is a game with rules that you're trying to play and quote unquote be successful around.
What were the most magical games that allowed you to experience those discoveries? Would you say? Just because I'm curious, because I'm new to the game.
Yeah.
In a way, but I love the games so far.
So there's short form, medium form, and long form, right? For me, I grew up.
I usually hear short and long. What's the medium to you? Let me educate me on medium.
So I don't know if this is something that is a Freestyle Love Supreme thing or not, but we tend to do song. And song, we also interact with the audience for a while. And then we take that information and create songs as we do, right? And sometimes those can be as short as 5 or 6 minutes, but sometimes those can be as long as 15 to 20 minutes.
Really? Oh, I'm going to watch them.
So that's a medium form to me.
Okay. What's a long?
I think long form typically is like an Armando. An Armando, which is usually 30 to 45 minutes long, where someone does a monologue, and then you do scenes based off of that. You only get one suggestion from the audience. It can be as simple as one word.
Yeah. I noticed like there's 2 schools I go to. Like kickstands known to do more long form, which I'm fine with because it's not my strength, but I'm learning. You know what? There's 6 levels. I'm at 2. Let's go for it.
Right.
I got time. There's no excuses.
Right.
No effort or excuse. Now here at Curious, they have variety, everything from short to long, and there's a different like eclectic, if you will, if that's the right word. Different group energy, right? Yeah. Over at Curious, I'm like two guys of like 10. The rest is women.
Yeah.
Girls. And then here at Curious, it's the other way around. But it's cool because I learned, I guess, being able to adapt is a key of being an improv.
Yeah.
Have you read the book, is it Pirate, Robots, and Ninjas?
No.
It's one of my favorite books. One of my teacher, Betsy, was like, hey, you should read this book if you like. I read it. It's just a quick read. Yeah. But it breaks it down in a little bit, very simple form to where if I were to teach or a teacher was teaching, they would say, let's give you some more robot. Yeah. So more pirate. Yeah. But then the ninja is the mixture. Like the ninja knows exactly what to do for the right moment. Right. And one of my brands, ninjas, I've coined acronym is nonstop, intentionally nurturing joyous ambition seekers. Ooh. So, that's part of like my branding of like, I want to create a ninja. That's great. That's great. So my goal is like, if you want to be a part of the entourage, please read this book. Yeah. And if it speaks to you, let's come out and play the games and figure it out. Yeah. But yeah. So the game that unlocked most things for me was the song game. Okay. Which is typically the way it was played when I was sort of coming up was like, you'd have a moderator and you have 2 or maybe 3 people inside the scene. And the moderator would get genres of music from the audience. So you'd be doing the scene and then the moderator would say freeze. Great. What song genre are they going to continue the scene in? And I grew up doing this in the 90s, early 2000s. And hip hop's everywhere. And I was obsessed with hip hop. I mean, obsessed with it. And then I became obsessed with theater serving non-traditional audiences. Yeah, I love that. So for me, I was trying to figure out how can improv be a tool that allows more perspective on stage? Yeah. How do we get more people who look different from each other, sharing and being playful? Because the thing for me, the magic for me is when everyone feels as though they have the ability to be playful. Yeah. Like seeing people of color be playful, that is what the world needs. Period. Like, I love that. Yeah, it makes sense. Period. Yeah. And so when I started doing the song game and I figured out that I could freestyle rap because I had memorized catalogs of songs. I had like 200 albums memorized. Like front to back. You could just throw it out. Dude, if you turned on any Tribe Called Quest album, any De La Soul album, any Far Side album, any Diggable Planet, like just literally anywhere in it, you could drop it in. Like, oh, here we are. It's the 5th song, and this is every word for the rest of this song. Cleopatra Jones, let's go. So awesome. I had built, I think, a whole neural network in my brain around what I call the Tetris of hip-hop, which is I see words as shapes. I love that. Yeah. And the words then fit into the right slots that then create the bar. Bars. Got it. Right? Love it. That's all we're trying to do. Symbolism. Yeah. And the 4 connects and makes a bar. Exactly. And words have different shapes to them. Yeah. Some of them are almost like Goodwill Hunting, right? Matt Damon's character was naturally able to see the formula, even if it was a janitor. Yeah. It just came to him. It was able to like, boom. But that's what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. I love that. And Pharrell's new movie, Piece by Piece, which everyone should watch. It's so good. It's out already? Where's that? The new Lego movie that Piece by Piece. Yeah. It's a biography of him through Legos. It's so cool. I might have to microdose and watch that or
Oh,
something.
dude, it's so good.
Or
And he
smoke
has
some weed.
synesthesia. He has synesthesia, which is when you hear music and you see colors.
Wow, no wonder his hits are so visual. Or
Exactly.
something, right? Psychedelic.
And there's so much variance inside of the musicality of the
fire.
songs, right?
Yeah.
So those different layers of how people see and perceive music, to me, when I got out of college and I was like, what's the thing I meant to do on this planet?
Sure.
It was, how do I create art, especially improv, because it lights me up so much, that uses a language that is more accessible to people of color. And that's why I created Freestyle Love Supreme. Hip hop is a black art form.
Yeah, I would not argue that. I just was with my nephew today, smoking a spliff, because I got these new banana palm king oops, the fire, like the organic, right, versus like other weird stuff.
Right.
And that's my new jam. I'm like, you know those crush cigarettes where you can crush it and get the mint? This one you can do like pineapple, strawberries, or watermelon, all the goodies.
Right.
So I'm like in the new days of funness. But we were watching on Netflix today. It's a Rhythm and Flow. I guess it's a series. It is top 10, top 5. America's watching. And this is why I'm so excited to meet you and others who love the craft of ciphering, of hip hop, freestyle, because it's like so liberating.
Yeah.
It's poetry in motion, but spontaneously.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's just like a euphoric feeling. When you see someone spit even a poem that's memorized, it still hits you.
Yeah.
Words is like spell, right? Spelling is the spell. You spell words with other words, and the next thing you know, you're in a spellbound, mystified zone, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then it's healing. It's cathartic.
Yeah.
And I'm just so delighted what's available because there's a big interest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. Well,
For me, rhyming unlocks and opens a whole other part of your brain.
Yeah.
And you're right. There are different parts of it, and I've done a lot of research as well around what's happening in your brain while you do these things.
really, wow,
Because I'm just obsessed and fascinated by it.
that's cool. That's super cool.
And a flow state is something that people get into through transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
A flow state is something people get into through yoga,
Yeah.
through anything where time just disappears.
Yeah. Whenever you're tripping or high or stuff, that's how it feels, right? You're like,
Absolutely.
it's taking forever. It's only been 10 minutes and it feels like an hour.
You're typically tapping into a part of your brain called your medial lateral prefrontal dorsal.
okay.
So this prefrontal cortex is the human part, is the sapient part of your brain.
Right.
That's the part of your brain that's like, let's tell stories and go kill this lion because we all believe in the same thing together.
Yeah.
Right? That's how,
It's embedded in our
that's how humans
DNA.
evolved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that part of your brain, which is like your flow state, it quiets this other part of your brain that's your judging brain.
Yeah.
And I think when we get lit up by improv, it's because we've stopped judging ourselves and we've just let ourselves make whatever choice feels right in the moment playfully.
Yeah. It's really attuning and being attuned to your energetic fields.
Yeah.
And just making a choice to celebrate it. And therefore, a supportive classmate or playmate will be able to ride that wave together.
Yes.
Yeah, I dig it. And a lot of people even do in Portland, Oregon, that is, psilocybin to get this type of
It's
effect.
not that different, right? Like luckily for us, many millennia ago, mushrooms were ingested by whomever, and then religion became a part of our existence because of this experience that felt outside of this corporal body.
Totally.
Right? And that is also part of the flow state. That third eye, that thing that you consider to be a little bit of like egoless and loss of this present, that exists almost right in between where the third eye normally is.
Yeah, is it the pineal gland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to some Dr. Espinoza. I forget the first name, but yeah. So I love it. Yeah. Well, we don't have so much time. I appreciate it, Anthony. This is so great. Before we end, what is the two times?
Oh, what is two touch?
Two touch.
Where does two touch come from? So I created a form of improv in New York with my troupe that I had at the time called the Pedestrians. We would ask for music from the audience, and they would give us an iPad or
like surprise lines.
Yeah, a little bit, right? And so, but what would happen is we would play that song in its entirety. So let's say somebody in the audience had their iPhone with them, or at the time was iPods. I don't know if you remember iPods, but they were like
Apple
what you
iPods,
sing on. Or an MP3 player. And then we would just randomly choose a song. And then we would all collectively, the audience and the performers would listen to the song together. The song would be done.
Very basic.
Yeah. And then we would recreate that song with just our voices. Every element of it.
Oh, it's almost like the harmonics team.
Yes.
But with improv guys.
Yes.
People.
And then after we created that song with our voices, we would do scenes based out of the song.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the show, we would go back and we would redo the song, but a new take or a new version of the song, because we had a lot of musicians in the group. And we would call it like an alternate take or a differently produced
Remix
version.
sort, yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And we would do a new version of the song. And then we would do more scenes, and then we would finish the show by having the song play again, and all of the scenes come together and lip sync the original song, because it would somehow, all the themes of the scenes would tie together through what that one song was representing.
Oh wow, I love
It was
to see
almost
that.
like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie as an improv set.
I'm about to Google that and watch that. But I appreciate the reference.
Yeah, Magnolia. Watch Magnolia. They
I've
literally
seen that.
do it in the movie Magnolia, which Tom Cruise steals, by the way. And so that was the format. We called that a two-touch. I'm also a soccer player. And when you drag the ball inside and make the defender think you're going laterally to one side, but then quickly cut back the other way, all within one, it's called a two-touch.
It's like a juke move.
Exactly. And that was something that I also loved to do. And so both of those things were the Venn diagram of me.
Anthony, you just hit so much fire. Thank you so much. Well, we have a class coming up. Are you able to come help?
Yeah, I'm going to come.
Oh, thank you so much
for a little bit.
We're gonna be so delighted. This is any portion.
However,
of it. Yeah. And well, let's wrap it up with this ask of a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned musical people came to be part of the group. How does a group typically form from your experience? How did it become such a ensemble, and what was the mechanism to allow that flow? Because I'm looking to do that in my own neighborhood here, and I think any kind of nugget or wisdom to help people hear and feel it, will be a benefit.
For me, whenever I created a troupe, the things I always looked for were people who were better than I was.
Okay, that makes sense.
B,
Iron Shepherd Irons.
Yep. B, pushed me towards places I didn't know much about, so had other areas of expertise.
Love Supreme. Love Supreme.
Oh, that shit's tight.
Love Supreme. Love Supreme. I love
That was a B-roll, and he's saying Love Supreme, which is the fan interview. Freestyle Love Supreme. It's just weird that happens. I didn't pay them to do that.